Did you know that water probably isn't wet? That in certain situations your blood is green? And that putting maggots on a wound isn't necessarily a bad thing? These freaky things are just a few of the many jaw-dropping discoveries scientists have made. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are strange scientific findings that'll leave you stunned. We call them mice because, well, they look like mice with a long tail. Except for this one, it's wireless. No surprises there. What is surprising is that they made a computer mouse out of wood. This happened way back in 1964 thanks to game-changing inventor Doug Engelbart. The man who created this handy little dude went for an all-natural design. It was a groundbreaking development, as long as he didn't mind getting splinters. The moon isn't the gray place you may think it is. Far from being like a black and white movie, the surface of the moon features mustard yellows and tints of blue. Modern technology has enabled us to see these shades like never before. And they aren't just decorative. Where there are colors, there are usually things like minerals for us to explore. Roosters have a habit of waking people up in the morning. The strange thing is, they have their own earplugs. This natural blocking system comprises a piece of soft tissue plus another organic part that comes together to protect the rooster's eardrums. Findings were published in 2018. So, now you know how they cock-a-doodle-doo to their heart's content and not go deaf. Using foul language is something we've been warned against since childhood, though maybe young people should be encouraged to cuss if science has anything to do with it. In 2017, experts revealed that people who turned the air blue had higher levels of honesty and integrity. The team studied how individuals behaved in a lab and on social media to come to this staggering conclusion. Which just reminds me of those people I'm just honest. How would you protect yourself from radioactivity? You'd wear one of those big suits, right? Well, maybe not. Stripping down is recommended in the event of being outside in a danger zone. Your bare skin offers zero protection, of course, but removing any contaminated clothes before you go outside is a good move. That reportedly gets rid of 90% of any nasty material that's settled on you. You'd probably keep your underwear on, though. 3D printing is a fact of life these days, with people printing everything from food to firearms. I mean, my friend Vince made me this sweet little sea turtle, so... Anyway, it dates back to the beginning of the 1980s, which is probably earlier than you thought, right? But wait, the idea of 3D printing may go back even further, to 1964. Arthur C. Clarke, the man who wrote the classic sci-fi book and movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, talked about a replicating device in a 1960s documentary. He didn't call it a 3D printer, of course, but the outcome was the same. Imagine living in a time before clones were a thing. The origin of the word cloning comes from the ancient Greek word for twig, so it's been around a long time. It was first used in the way we know today by plant expert Herbert J. Weber, then expanded upon by scientist J.B.S. Haldane. Cloning went from plant life to animal life, with the cloning of tadpoles and then Dolly the sheep in 1996. As for human clones, they are possible, with an embryo being produced in 2001. It's just too much of a scientific hot potato to be explored at the moment. Sci-fi fans know about flying cars. They were first mentioned by authors such as Jules Verne in the early 20th century, and it didn't take too long for people to start trying to build the real deal. A flying car called the Model 11 autoplane was shown to the public in 1917. Later on in 1949, the Taylor Aero car wowed drivers, though only a handful were made. It's reported that we'll see people riding in these kinds of vehicles everywhere in the coming decades. Hopefully then, this idea will finally take off. Drones are buzzing around everywhere now, but they appeared in sci-fi movies and novels years ago. Long before the military sent out deadly drones to take out their targets, the author Frank Herbert included a flying weapon called the Hunter Seeker in his iconic book Dune from 1965. It went on to appear in the 2021 movie. In the 16th century, a truly wild idea was suggested by the legendary astronomer Nicholas Copernicus. The Earth is not the center of the universe. His heliocentric model, thought to be based on writings from ancient Greece, would overtake the existing Ptolemaic system. He spent the first few decades of the 1500s working on his theories, which were hammered home a couple hundred years or so later by Galileo. Empedocles is the ancient Greek philosopher who began trying to put the world in order back in the 5th century BCE. Dividing matter into the elements of fire, air, water, and earth was a godsend for people who wanted to make sense of things around them. And by the way, when I say godsend, I mean it literally. He named these roots after the mighty figures of Zeus, Hera, Hades, and Nestus. These must have seemed like incredible predictions at the time, but they form the building blocks of the way we understand the physical world today. There's time as you see it on a clock, and time as you perceive it. How many times have you thought it was a certain time only to be surprised when looking at the clock? Animals don't have clocks to look at, yet they have their own perception of time, and according to science, it could be much slower than ours. For example, a 2013 study showed that small creatures pick up higher light frequencies, suggesting they could be experiencing the world in slow motion. It's all a matter of perspective. How do we know water is wet? Easy. We jump into it and we get pretty wet. What a strange question. Or is it? You see, a state of wetness occurs when you stick your hand in a bucket of water. Who's to say that isn't just the reaction of water to a solid object? It doesn't necessarily mean that water is wet when we're not interfering with it. You look smart in a necktie, but be warned, wearing one could potentially reduce the blood going to your brain. By how much? A surprising 7.5%. The 2018 study worked this out by using a tie in a Windsor knot, which was worn for 15 minutes. Once the tie was removed, the blood flow reduction actually dropped to 5.7%. In 2007, scientists concluded that your ears continue to grow throughout your life. This discovery is made even stranger by the fact that we aren't exactly sure why. So the next time you feel the urge to shout, "Hey, big ears!" you might want to take a look in the mirror first. We all have ears that are getting bigger by the day. Does anyone shout that at literally anyone? It's tough being an ant. Many of them are workers, scurrying here and there and everywhere. Now, getting out of breath is different when you're an ant, because instead of lungs, you have weird holes in your body through which the air passes. These are known as spiracles, and you can imagine that there are a lot of them. Women being independent isn't a shocking scientific prediction, but it sure raised a few eyebrows when the idea was suggested back in 1922. Of course, this prediction was made by a man, author W.L. George from England. He saw the female of the species breaking free from her male oppressors by the year 2022. Thankfully, it took a little less time than that. George covered feminist themes in his fiction, which was probably pretty eye-opening in the early 20th century. You can't have failed to notice that we're almost totally reliant on technology these days to live. One computer expert who sees the bigger picture is futurist Ray Kurzweil. He's talked a lot about how machine intelligence moves faster than human intelligence. But before you go start shouting Skynet, he also views this as a positive. Kurzweil states that humans and machines will become one, leading longer, more fulfilling lives. He's certainly right about computers being quicker, so let's just see what happens with the whole joining forces thing. Does going to Yale automatically make you a genius? Former university president Ezra Stiles helped prove this theory when he correctly predicted that the USA's population would hit 300 million in 1983. And if that doesn't sound too surprising, then you should probably know about the year he made that prediction. Stiles said it a whole 2 centuries earlier in 1783. Remember when the iPad was a whole new level of tech? We weren't really used to seeing tablet computers before its release in 2010, though they had been on the market since 1989. But if you go back to 1968 in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, you'll see acclaimed director Stanley Kubrick showing audiences something that's an awful lot like the devices we have in our homes decades later. The image was so ahead of its time that it was even used during a copyright dispute between Apple and Samsung over the design of a tablet. Scientists studying a 1.77 million-year-old fossil teeth in Georgia just discovered something fascinating. These ancient humans had a modern human pattern of tooth development, which tells us they had a longer childhood, even though they reached adulthood as fast as great apes, at around 12. Using high-tech synchrotron imaging, researchers are confident that these early humans were dependent on adults for longer, which allowed crucial cultural learning and social bonding. We used to believe that bigger brains led to longer childhoods. These findings, published in Nature, flips the old theory on its head. It now seems like prolonged childhoods may have in fact kick-started the evolution of our massive, brilliant brains. The plight of rhinos the world over is dire. That's why our next discovery is incredible. Scientists managed to get a southern white rhino pregnant through IVF. This breakthrough could be the key to saving the nearly extinct northern white rhino. At the moment, there are only 2 left in the world, both female, but scientists were able to preserve sperm from the last male before he died. The plan is to combine that sperm with an egg from a northern white rhino, and then use a southern white rhino as a surrogate mom. This first IVF pregnancy was sort of a proof of concept to show it works, and researchers now hope to see northern white rhino calves born in just a few years. Scientists have made batteries greener and smarter. In Australia, researchers came up with water-based batteries that can be recycled forever. All it takes is swapping out the electrolytes, and these batteries are as good as new, cutting down on waste and making them incredibly eco-friendly. Meanwhile, in China, scientists have introduced calcium-based batteries that could replace lithium-ion ones. Calcium is way easier to find and cheaper to use, so these batteries are better for the planet and your wallet. When surgeons remove brain tumors, there's always a risk that small bits of cancer are left behind. These residual tumors can be hard to spot because they look so much like healthy brain tissue. Standard tools like MRI scans or special dyes can help, but they're not always available or effective. Now, a new AI tool called FastGlioma is changing that. The technology can analyze tissues during surgery and detect leftover cancer cells in just 10 seconds, with an impressive 92% accuracy. Developed by researchers at the University of Michigan and UCSF, it's already outperforming older methods, which can miss up to 25% of risky tumor tissue. Scientists used to believe that galaxies form slowly over time, with only about 20% of their gas turning into stars. But a new discovery is making waves. Researchers recently discovered 3 ultramassive galaxies using the James Webb Space Telescope, each one just as big as the Milky Way, that were already in place less than 1 billion years after the Big Bang. These galaxies didn't grow gradually. They built stars at an incredible rate, challenging everything we know about how galaxies form. So star formation in the early universe was way more efficient and faster than we thought. We've discovered something amazing. Marmoset monkeys use names to communicate with each other, just like humans. These tiny primates make unique phi calls to identify and refer to each other. Their response to calls directed specifically at them is even more accurate, demonstrating a level of communication ability not seen in other monkey species. Until now, only humans, elephants, and dolphins were known to use names this way. According to researchers, it just might mean that other animals have advanced communication methods. We just haven't studied them closely enough yet. Author Jules Verne wrote a sci-fi story called From the Earth to the Moon in 1865. We went to the lunar surface a century later, but what's shocking is how accurate Verne was when imagining what the trip would actually be like. He inadvertently predicted the location of the launch, Florida, and even the idea of zero gravity. Although, instead of Cape Canaveral, he wrote that the launch was from Tampa, my hometown. There's actually an official marker at Ballast Point Pier that explains why it's called Jules Verne Park, so if you're ever in Tampa, check it out. Oh, and if you see me, just be sure to say hello. Yeah, not Canadian. That's a call out to a comment section from a couple days ago. I'm not from Canada. What a weird comment. That guy was so insistent I'm Canadian. Climate change was actually being talked about in 1917. Alexander Graham Bell was clearly worried about the impact of burning fuel on the planet's atmosphere, describing a greenhouse effect, though he wasn't the person who came up with that expression. Earlier in 1896, Swedish chemist Svante Arrhenius mentioned how Earth might become a hothouse through atmospheric gas locking in heat. The World Wide Web as we know it arrived in 1983, but who predicted it? Well, they don't come more on the money than Isaac Asimov. The prolific sci-fi author and academic saw what was coming down the line with machines and their ability to link up minds across the globe. A few years after the birth of the internet, Asimov highlighted how students could access connected libraries for their information, though I'm not sure how he'd feel about Wikipedia. But you know what else is a shocking prediction? I predict that you will like, share, comment, and subscribe. But in all seriousness, it really does help the channel. There's a reason us YouTubers tell you that. Also, don't forget to check out our socials. The biologist and historian Peter Turchin believes that every 50 years the US falls into instability. It's part of a wider approach he calls cliodynamics, Clio being the ancient Greek history muse. Turchin applies a mathematical approach to history. And you know what? He might be onto something. 2020 was one heck of a year here in America. Go back half a century and there's the polarized and dangerous atmosphere of the 70s. Go back from there and shocking things were happening in the 20s. Is Peter Turchin right or just damn lucky? The father of the breakfast cereal was also responsible for meat-free meals. John Harvey Kellogg introduced an alternative to your steaks and chicken wings using soy, grains, and other ingredients. People probably thought Kellogg was a little nuts. And they'd be right, because nuts were a major element. Enter nuctose and nuttolene, meat and dairy-flavored substitutes that sound a lot like what you find in stores these days. Scientists are getting closer to understanding lupus, a disease where the immune system turns against healthy cells. The issue comes down to T cells, the immune cells that either protect or harm the body. In lupus, there are too many harmful T cells and not enough of the helpful ones that repair damage. This imbalance is largely caused by a protein called interferon. When there's too much, it blocks the other proteins that normally keep the immune system in check, causing it to spiral out of control. The good news is that it's now been confirmed that a drug called anifrolumab can block interferon, in the process restoring the balance and possibly reversing the disease. This discovery could lead to better treatments and a new world for people living with lupus. Dr. House would be so proud. Scientists have figured out how to repair brain cells affected by a rare genetic disorder called Timothy syndrome. It's all thanks to a new drug called antisense oligonucleotide, which helps neurons develop normally, even if they have a faulty gene. The drug uses a tiny piece of synthetic genetic material to replace the bad protein with a healthy one, effectively canceling out the mutation. It's pretty amazing, right? The same approach could one day help treat other conditions like epilepsy, ADHD, or autism. As one researcher put it, it's the beginning of a new era. And honestly, the possibilities are endless. The FDA just approved the first ever cell therapy for this deadly skin cancer. The treatment, called Amtagvi, uses tumor-infiltrating lymphocytes, a type of T cell from the patient's own tumor, to target and fight the cancer. These T cells are super important for the immune system, but inside tumors they often stop working. And that's where Amtagvi comes in. Doctors extract and replicate these T cells, basically giving them a boost to attack the cancer more effectively. The results are promising. Clinical trials showed a 56% response rate, with 24% of patients experiencing a complete disappearance of their cancer. Researchers have analyzed samples from the far side of the moon for the first time ever, thanks to China's Chang'e 6 mission. And what they found was incredible. The moon's volcanic history goes back billions of years. The mission, which landed in the South Pole, Aitken Basin, one of the moon's oldest craters, brought back nearly 2 kilograms of lunar soil. By analyzing the dust, scientists identified lava grains that erupted onto the surface about 2.83 billion years ago, with some even dating back as far as 4.2 billion years. This shows the moon wasn't always the still, quiet place we see today. For billions of years, it was a volcanic hotspot. The first organ transplant happened in 1954, but the prediction of it was made way back in the 1660s. Robert Boyle, the chemist and philosopher who helped found the prestigious Royal Society, came up with a list containing 24 entries. Oh, just one short of being on list 25 there, Robert. One of which mentioned the use of transplantation as a medical procedure. Wait, they predicted the Big Bang? That sounds weird, because surely there wasn't anyone around before the Big Bang to, predict it. However, the concept of the Big Bang was certainly thought about in advance. The ancient Indian hymn of creation, or the Hiranyagarbha Sukta of Rigveda, features details of Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb. Wombs are part of the birthing process, so naturally this lends itself to everything being released in one powerful event. You may pop your earbuds in every day, not realizing the science behind them, namely the science of acoustics. And at one point, they were an amazing sci-fi prediction. Author Ray Bradbury described a similar invention in 1953's Fahrenheit 451. These were seashell-shaped, predating the release of wireless earbuds in 2015. Think the Tom Cruise movie Minority Report is a far-off fantasy? Well, you're criminally wrong. Algorithms are reportedly being used by law enforcement to anticipate wrongdoing, and worryingly, the system could be a little glitchy. So the next time you have an idle thought about lawbreaking, you'd best push it to the back of your mind in case the thought police show up. Why does your voice sound different in your head than it does in a recording? Well, because the sound you're listening to is filtered through all those bones and other materials. This favors the low frequency vibrations. As a result, you're bassier and gruffer. Well, at least that's how it sounds. When you hear your own voice back from another source, it's usually a surprise. Usually, I've been doing this so much, the voice I hear here is exactly the voice I hear when I watch these videos back. So, I'm so used to the sound of I talk a lot. And I'm not even talking just list 25. In general, in life, I talk a lot. Some animals show human-like traits, but do they share more specific things, like a diagnosis of autism? It's been speculated that when a dog chases its tail, it's showing repetitive behaviors that could be linked to the disability. You're not protected from something like a fart because you're underwater. Smell molecules take longer to move through water than they do through air, but believe me, they are moving. And if that sounds like a strange fact, well, then, this is a strange list. I know, it sounds horrible, but it works. Sure, you don't want creepy crawlies in your wound eating away at you, but look at it this way. While they're eating you, they're consuming the nasty stuff that's infecting you. I definitely wouldn't recommend it as a home remedy, however, in a controlled environment, it should work pretty effectively. Did you know that the maggot could be used as an antibacterial cleaning machine? If you don't know what a snuff box is, it's a little box people used to carry around so they could inhale snuff. Snuff itself is made from tobacco and oil. Did you know that you have a snuff box as part of your hand? Well, something shaped like one anyway. The so-called anatomical snuff box is a little nook type thing under your thumb that you can probably see if you extend it, but be careful though, you don't want to strain anything. You've, most likely, got two nostrils, but don't assume they're being used simultaneously. Using both dries out the air and causes irritation, so your brain orders you to breathe through one at a time. When I take a breath consciously, I do it through both nostrils, and I'm sure you do too, so this is probably really strange to hear, and now you're conscious of it, so sorry. Can you believe back in 1900 people were predicting Zoom, Teams, and the like? The World's Fair in Paris depicted the shocking sight of people being able to see each other whilst talking down the wires. This wasn't long after the telephone was invented in 1876. The first actual video call happened in 1927, which is still surprisingly early. It's an exciting technological development, one heavily based in science. For example, your brain will process an audio and an audio-visual experience differently. Where did the name Metaverse come from? It actually landed via Sci-fi, specifically a 1992 novel called Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. Decades later, and we're all living in a digital landscape of avatars and crazy experiences. The 2020s saw Facebook embrace the idea of the metaverse, though it appears to have been overtaken by other developments in technology. Aldous Huxley's highly influential sci-fi novel Brave New World was published in 1932. Among its predictions was that society would become drug-dependent in order to cope. Take a look around at the pill-popping culture and you can see Huxley knew what he was talking about. Of course, I am not saying antidepressants are a bad thing. The satellites, or moons, of Mars are Phobos and Deimos, and were discovered by astronomer Asaph Hall from America. Or were they? The writer of Gulliver's Travels, Jonathan Swift, talked about Martian satellites a century and a half earlier in the pages of his classic work. Amazingly, the author was just spitballing, and just so happened to be right. Author H.G. Wells is regarded as one of the greats of science fiction, if not the greatest. He also managed to predict the coming of the atomic bomb. The World Set Free, published in 1914, depicts a uranium grenade dropped from the air to devastating effect. Weirdly, physicist Leo Szilard was an associate of Wells and would go on to work on the notorious Manhattan Project where the bomb was created. It was detonated in New Mexico in 1945, resulting in the world's first ever nuclear explosion. Artificial intelligence has taken the world by surprise, even though we were warned about it through science fiction. Speaking on an old BBC documentary from the 60s, author Arthur C. Clarke mentioned the prospect of machines becoming cleverer than people. The early 80s saw experts such as Geoffrey Hinton bringing in ideas that formed the basis of AI. Clarke didn't necessarily see this development in a negative light, but it sure would be interesting to get his take on the situation now. Being attacked by a shark is a primal fear. The idea of encountering a marine predator and getting bitten, filling the sea with your blood? A horrible thought. Though, surprisingly, the blood wouldn't be red. Scientists have found that if you're ever over 10 meters down in the water, your blood will be green. Why is that? Not because sunlight loses its redness the deeper you get. It doesn't make the attack any less horrifying, but hey, it's a novelty at least. So, feel comfort in that? Don't try this one at home. For all you people who have sharks at your house. Sounded better in my head. The image of bees working away in the hive to provide honey is a comforting one, and you wind up with a sticky treat to spread on your toast or muffin. You may rethink things though after hearing how much effort it takes to produce just 1 tablespoon of honey. It takes the B team, see what we did there? 6 weeks working in a group of 36. A staggering 2 million flowers approximately go into the making of a pound of the stuff. Honey may give you a buzz, but it's actually quite exploitative. So, just some honey. I was gonna put it on a spoon, but I have to hold this, so I don't want honey all over my floor. Our fishy friends form an orderly queue. Scientists have found that neon tetrafish, or Parachirodon inesi, avoid predators the sensible way by swimming one behind the other and not getting into a panic, much like the sand people. Underwater stampedes are apparently a thing and can be catastrophic if a bunch of fishes are trying to escape a hungry shark. Or fish. Also the plural of fish is fish. Dandruff problems? That one hits close to home. Real quick, not dandruff, it's psoriasis, but yeah. Anyway, the answer could be lying in deep space. Not for me, it's my skin. Nah, this list is making me sad now. Approximately 14 tons of dust from space falls to the planet Earth every day. It comes from the likes of comets. Those heavenly bodies shed material which makes its way to your body. And some of this material winds up in your hair. Something to think about the next time you're cleaning your comb. From now on, anytime any of y'all comment, hey, what's with that guy's red marks, I'm gonna tell you it's comet dust. I want you to imagine something, and bear with me. It's a little strange. Imagine you could get close enough to a neutron star to put a teaspoon in it. Then scoop out a tiny, tiny part of that star. How much would it weigh? Well, according to experts, over 1 trillion tons, which puts it way over the weight of the entire human population on Earth. Just that. That's incredible. 2024 gave the world a lot of incredible discoveries, as you'll soon see. But one of the strangest was the discovery that the universe's first galaxies weren't the neat spirals or clusters we know today. Nope, they were, in fact, banana-shaped. The odd finding has offered us a glimpse into the chaotic early universe and forced astronomers to rethink the process that shaped the universe as we know it today. So, it does seem as if all of us, including the universe, had to go through that awkward phase to get where we are today. Researchers studying Last Chance Lake in Canada have found that it supports Charles Darwin's famous idea of all life emerging from warm little ponds. These soda lakes, rich in carbonates and phosphates, seem to have had just the right mix of ingredients to kickstart life nearly 4 billion years ago. The findings also tackle a long-standing puzzle, the phosphate problem, showing how these lakes naturally concentrated phosphates to levels needed for life's building blocks. So, Darwin might have been right. If similar conditions exist on other planets, we might just know where to start looking for life. If the sun's rays were ever drastically reduced, say after a nuclear war or a massive volcanic eruption, seaweed farming could step in as a surprisingly resilient food source. Unlike traditional crops, seaweed can grow in low-light conditions and thrive in the ocean, making it a dependable option in scenarios where land-based agriculture fails. What's even more impressive? Researchers believe this alternative food source could be set up within a year, providing a critical lifeline for global food security. We've discovered the world's oldest skin. And it's old. In fact, it predates the previous record holder by 130 million years. Unearthed in Oklahoma's Richard Spur limestone cave, the 289 million-year-old skin fragment has a pebbled texture like crocodile skin, with hinged regions between scales resembling those of modern snakes and worm lizards. This discovery is extraordinary for its preservation. The unique cave chemistry, rich in clay sediments, hydrocarbons, and low oxygen, created ideal conditions to fossilize the delicate epidermis. Researchers now have a rare chance to trace the evolution of skin and its critical role in survival during Earth's rapidly changing ecosystems. Do you think every fingerprint is unique? Well, that might not be 100% true. Researchers making use of AI have found striking similarities between fingerprints from different fingers of the same person. They analyzed 60,000 prints, and the system found new patterns in ridge orientations and curvatures, details traditional forensics has long overlooked. This breakthrough could transform criminal investigations, helping solve cold cases by linking prints from different fingers of the same person. But beyond crime, it also showcases AI's ability to reveal patterns we've missed for centuries, hidden in plain sight. We didn't just find new patterns in fingerprints in 2024. Scientists at the University of Cambridge also unveiled a robotic sensor that can read braille at 315 words per minute. That is twice as fast as most humans, with nearly 90% accuracy. The real magic is in how the sensor works. It mimics the sensitivity of human fingertips, a remarkable feat of engineering. While it wasn't designed as an assistive tool, the possibilities are enormous. This research could eventually lead to robotic hands and prosthetics that are just as sensitive and precise as our own. Every human being is different. Though talk of individuals being beautiful and unique snowflakes is maybe a little overstated. On a genetic level, we're all pretty much the same. DNA evidence shows there's only about 1% in it between us. That said, our personalities make us what we are. Genetics is only part of the deal. Marshmallow clouds? I don't think so. Clouds look lighter than air, but the reality is they're super heavy. An average bulky cloud weighs as much as 1 million pounds. So how does it stay up in the air? Aerodynamics. Warm air rises up and creates a cushioning layer which carries the cloud along. How do aircraft cope up there with those substantial things? I'm certainly going to look at clouds a whole lot differently from now on. Probably because they change shape and you're going to look at them like they're different things. Fire! Call the authorities! Or turn on your MP3 player. Acoustics levitation can be used to interfere with combustion. In layman's terms, pressure from sound waves can extinguish a flame. A 2016 experiment carried out at the California State Science Fair saw frequencies of between 30 and 65 hertz putting out fires. Sound either affects the heat or the oxygen, but experts aren't certain which. Either way, it's a cool discovery. Literally. In 2019, a truly extraordinary medical procedure took place where someone's eyesight was repaired with the use of stem cells. This happened in Japan, where pluripotent stem cells were applied to a cornea. Stem cells can potentially grow new cells in the body, and if you're wondering what a cornea is, well, it's that layer that covers up the iris and the pupil. This procedure is still a work in progress, but it got positive results from the patient. The idea that your eyes could one day be repaired as simply as a broken leg is an astounding prospect. It all started with one child, a young patient with severe developmental delays, seizures, and an unusual inability to feel pain. His symptoms baffled doctors, until researchers discovered that he had a mutation in a gene called FLVCR1. What's astonishing is that this one case led to a discovery that tied 30 other medical conditions, all with very different symptoms, from bone malformations and developmental delays to microcephaly, to the exact same gene. The FLVCR1 gene controls how cells transplant choline and ethanolamine, which are critical for metabolism. When this transport system fails, it affects multiple systems in the body. Researchers are now exploring potential treatments, like supplementing choline or using drugs to prevent toxin buildup. This breakthrough might not just help patients with FLVCR1 mutations, it could also shed light on other disorders linked to choline deficiency, like Alzheimer's and nerve damage. Scientists are making incredible strides in regenerative medicine by growing tiny, functional organs, called organoids, from human stem cells. These miniature kidneys, livers, and hearts mimic the structure and function of full-sized organs and are already being used to study diseases and test new drugs, delivering better insights than animal models ever could. While we can't grow full-sized organs for transplants just yet, these organoids are giving us a glimpse into a future where lab-grown organs could help solve the global shortage of donor organs. The incredible discovery comes from NASA's Mars InSight lander, which spent 4 years quietly listening to the heartbeat of Mars through vibrations called, well, Marsquakes. By studying these seismic waves, scientists found liquid water hidden 6 to 12 miles beneath the planet's crust. Until now, we only knew about frozen water at the poles and traces of vapor in the atmosphere. This discovery answers a long-standing question: where did Mars's water go? While some escaped into space, much of it, like on Earth, is trapped underground. This is huge because liquid water is the key ingredient for life. These reservoirs might even hold clues to whether or not life ever existed on Mars. However, don't expect humans to drill into it anytime soon. Reaching 10 miles into Martian rock would be nearly impossible, even for the most ambitious of billionaires. The tiny nanobots are so small that they can move through your bloodstream, and they are completely changing the way we treat brain aneurysms. Guided by magnets, they work by delivering clot-forming drugs right to the problem area, where they seal off weakened blood vessels and prevent potentially dangerous ruptures. What's amazing is how much safer this could be compared to current treatments like stents, which often require blood thinners and come with added risks. They've already shown how precise and effective they are in initial animal treatments, and now they're moving to the next stage of testing. If all goes well, these tiny robots could revolutionize stroke prevention and aneurysm care, providing a faster, safer, and less invasive way to save lives. Breast cancer cases are rising, but researchers from the University of Florida and Taiwan's National Yangbing Chiaocheng University have developed a handheld device that can screen for breast cancer using just a tiny saliva sample. The device uses paper test strips treated with antibodies that react to cancer biomarkers, combined with a reusable circuit board that costs only $5. It takes less than 5 seconds to come up with a result and is set to revolutionize breast cancer screening, especially in developing regions where access to advanced technology is limited. Whether it's a good idea or a bad one remains to be seen, but we're inching closer to bringing back the woolly mammoth. A company called Colossal Biosciences has engineered Asian elephant cells into stem cells that can become any tissue, hoping to create a cold-resistant elephant with mammoth traits like shaggy fur and curved tusks. Their ultimate goal? To restore Arctic ecosystems and uncover secrets about traits like cancer resistance. But while the research is promising, we're not there yet. Scientists still need to perfect gene editing, create viable embryos, and figure out how to teach these animals to survive in the wild before this idea becomes reality. Scientists have taken a big step forward in the fight against HIV, using CRISPR gene editing technology to eliminate the virus from infected cells. The best way to describe the technology would be to compare it to molecular scissors. CRISPR cuts out or inactivates harmful DNA. In contrast to existing treatments, which suppress the virus but can't eliminate it, this approach aims to eliminate HIV completely. While it's still in its early stages and limited to lab experiments, they are paving the way for a future cure. Medical students in the UK made an unusual discovery during a body dissection: a man with 3 penises. The rare condition, Trifalia, has only been documented once before, in a baby born in Iraq in 2020. This case, detailed in the Journal of Medical Case Reports, is the first studied in an adult. The 78-year-old man's genitalia appeared normal externally, but dissection revealed 2 smaller, hidden penises in his scrotum. Researchers now believe Trifalia might be more common than we think, often going unnoticed without detailed examination. A newly published study has revealed a dramatic shift in America's Tornado Alley. Once centered in the southern plains states like Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, the most active tornado corridor now stretches east into the lower Mississippi Valley, including Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Tennessee. Tornadoes are also occurring more frequently in fall and winter, with winter events increasing by a staggering 102%. Google scientists took a groundbreaking look at the human brain. They mapped a piece of brain tissue no bigger than a grain of sand, just 1 cubic millimeter, and uncovered 57,000 cells and 150 million synapses. To capture all this complexity, they created a 3D map so detailed it takes up 1.4 petabytes of data. For context, that's about 280,000 hours of HD video. The team hopes this work will lead to big advances in understanding diseases like Alzheimer's and even improve treatments for mental health conditions. Have you ever heard the infinite monkey theorem? It's the idea that monkeys typing randomly for eternity could eventually reproduce Shakespeare's works. Well, in 2024, mathematicians officially debunked it, at least in a universe like ours. Even with 200,000 chimps typing 1 key per second for their 30-year lifespans, a sentence like, "I chimp, therefore I am," not happening. A book? Billions of times less likely. Monkeys wouldn't even be able to finish Curious George, let alone Hamlet. So unless infinity becomes a reality, Shakespeare is safe from the chimps. Astronomers have discovered a planet called TOI 715b, a super-Earth about 1.5 times the size of our planet, orbiting a star 137 light-years away. What makes TOI 715b special is its location in the conservative habitable zone, a narrower region where conditions are even more likely to be suitable for life. This planet's relatively quiet host star and its proximity to Earth make it a perfect candidate for future studies. With upcoming missions like the European Space Agency's Plato, which will hunt for planets around sun-like stars, discoveries like TOI 715b could bring us closer to finding worlds that might resemble Earth, and maybe even discovering life beyond our own planet. A vaccine that not only prevents cancer but also treats it? Well, if that sounds too good to be true, let me tell you, it's not. These vaccines train the immune system to recognize and destroy cancer cells by targeting the unique mutations in each patient's tumor. Early trials are showing remarkable results. Tumors are shrinking, and recurrence rates falling. Since these vaccines are tailored to the specific genetics of each cancer, they're more precise and come with fewer side effects than traditional treatments. As research advances, personalized vaccines could redefine how we approach cancer care and reshape the future of cancer treatment forever. You must have heard that stress is a silent killer. Apart from all its negative effects on our bodies, we've now also discovered how it changes the way our brain stores memories. When intense stress floods the brain with hormones like cortisol, it changes how memories are stored. Instead of creating clear, detailed memories, the brain pulls in too many neurons, leaving things blurred and confusing. This makes it hard to tell safe situations apart from real threats, which is why harmless triggers can feel terrifying after trauma, a hallmark of PTSD. The research also found a potential solution. Blocking stress hormones prevented this effect. It might just be the way forward to better treat PTSD and anxiety. Scientists have used AI to identify 27,500 previously unknown objects in the solar system, including more than 100 near-Earth asteroids that could pose a potential threat to our planet. Instead of using telescopes, researchers fed old images of the night sky into an AI-powered algorithm. By analyzing patterns in the data, the algorithm was able to pinpoint new asteroids that had gone unnoticed in earlier observations. Most of the newly discovered asteroids are located between Mars and Jupiter, but the near-Earth asteroids are a concern because of their close proximity to us. Finding them feels like the first big step towards protecting Earth from potential asteroid impacts in the future. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic are currently testing a technique where stem cells are injected directly into the damaged spinal cord to repair and regenerate tissue. Patients who've undergone the treatment are already reporting improvements in their movement and motor skills, giving hope to many living with these injuries. Even better, the study found the treatment is generally safe, and they've picked up on no serious side effects. While it's still in its early days, the progress is encouraging. This next entry might be an exciting discovery, or maybe our writer just wanted to see how many times I could say the word Uranus without losing it, so let's find out. Back in 1986, NASA's Voyager 2 spacecraft gave us our first close look at the ice giant, revealing its oddly tilted magnetic field and a weird abundance of high-energy electrons. Now, new research suggests that those strange readings were caused by a rare solar wind that hit Uranus just before Voyager 2's flyby. The solar wind temporarily knocked Uranus's magnetic field out of shape and injected electrons into its radiation belts, scattering plasma. This means Voyager 2 captured a snapshot of the planet in a condition that only occurs about 4% of the time. If the spacecraft arrived just a few days earlier, it would have seen a very different magnetosphere. So everything we thought we knew about Uranus and its icy moons, which were believed to be geologically inactive, might not be true after all. Now, I know I said robots got way more impressive earlier, but guys, you have no idea. In 2024, researchers revealed a new insect-inspired micro-robot that might just be the smallest, lightest, and fastest of their kind. Weighing only 8 and 55 milligrams, these tiny bots are modeled after mini bugs and water striders, using shape memory alloys instead of motors to move their limbs 40 times a second and lift 150 times their weight. That's like a human being bench pressing a small car. Future upgrades might even let these bots explore dangerous environments, help doctors with surgeries, or help pollinate flowers and crops artificially. I kid you not. Dubbed TrueHueX, or short for truly human, these mice created at the University of Texas mimic human immune responses so closely that they can even produce human-like antibodies and autoantibodies. The research could transform immunology research, speed up vaccine development, testing therapies, and give us new insight into diseases like lupus and COVID-19. Is it ethical? Yeah, maybe I shouldn't ask that question. The Key Largo tree cactus is now officially gone from the United States, marking the country's first local extinction caused by sea level rise. Saltwater intrusion, relentless hurricanes, rising tides, and even hungry mammals whittled the population down from 150 stems in 1992 to just 6 struggling fragments by 2021. Thankfully, researchers managed to save those last pieces for off-site cultivation, hoping to keep the species alive somewhere, even if it's no longer part of the original landscape. 2024's more disturbing scientific discoveries also revealed that pollution near North Sea oil platforms has increased by 10,000%. And yet, for some reason, nobody's stopping it. Hydrocarbons and heavy metals are skyrocketing near these platforms, and biodiversity has dropped by more than 30%. Larger species like starfish have also disappeared, leaving simplified ecosystems dominated by hardy organisms like worms behind. With many platforms nearing decommissioning, scientists are now warning that improper removal could worsen the damage. Whether anyone's going to listen remains to be seen. It took us a couple decades, but scientists have finally discovered reservoirs of liquid water buried deep in the planet's rocky crust. Using seismic data from NASA's InSight lander, the water was found 6 to 12 miles underground, well beyond the reach of would-be Martian colonists. So, will we ever extract it in our lifetimes? Probably not. But its existence might explain where Mars's ancient rivers and lakes vanished billions of years ago. And if there's liquid water, could life be hiding too? That's a question scientists are eager to explore. Scientists have uncovered 2 explosive turning points in aging, at ages 44 and 60, when the body undergoes rapid, dramatic molecular changes. These shifts aren't gradual. They hit like waves, affecting over 135,000 types of molecules and microbes linked to metabolism, immunity, and more. In your 40s, your body starts rewiring how it handles alcohol and fats. By your 60s, the focus shifts to immune regulation and kidney function. Researchers say these discoveries could unlock ways to take control of your health during these pivotal decades, and may even slow aging itself. If self-awareness is typically reserved for the brainiest creatures, the tiny blue streak cleaner wrasse is breaking all the rules. Already known for recognizing its reflection and passing the mirror test, this tropical fish has surprised scientists again, using mirrors to assess its own size before picking a fight. In recent lab experiments, the wrasse faced photos of both larger and smaller rivals. Without a mirror, it attacked indiscriminately. But with a mirror, it paused to size itself up, only challenging images of smaller opponents. The clever behavior shows that the wrasse understands its own body size and applies that knowledge strategically, a remarkably sophisticated trait for such a tiny creature. I loved Odell Down Under. We all love our furry companions, and of course every dog owner believes their pup is the best and the brightest. But researchers have discovered something a lot of us already knew. Dogs with smaller brains relative to their bodies might actually be the smartest, at least when it comes to working breeds. For example, Siberian Huskies, Rottweilers, and other working dogs evolved with compact, efficient brains, perfect for handling complex tasks. Meanwhile, toy breeds like Chihuahuas have larger brains compared to their body size, but their brains are often tied to behaviors like fear, separation anxiety, and attention seeking. The difference comes down to how we've bred them. Working dogs were designed for trainability and focus, while companion breeds were shaped for traits like affection and attachment. Sticking with dogs for a moment, because they're totally awesome, and they make life worth living, but if you're a dog owner, you know the drill. Get a dog wet and they just shake all over you. Well, scientists have dug deep, spent their research grants, and finally figured out which nerve is responsible for this classic move, the CLTMR receptor. This nerve, found in the skin of furry animals like dogs, cats, and even mice, triggers the wet dog shake when droplets land on their fur. It's an instinctive behavior designed to get rid of water or other irritants, and it happens with surprising precision. 3 back and forth shakes in quick succession. Yes, they counted them. Interestingly, this nerve might have evolved to help animals shake off parasites or water droplets stuck in their fur. Whether humans have any leftover version of this reflex is still up for debate, but we do know one thing. We still don't know why your dog insists on shaking right next to you. Type 1 diabetes affects around 9 million people worldwide. It occurs when the immune system mistakenly attacks the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas, requiring lifelong insulin therapy to control blood sugar levels and avoid serious complications like heart disease, nerve damage, and kidney failure. But this year, scientists in China achieved a groundbreaking milestone. They reversed a woman's type 1 diabetes using her own fat cells. The process involved reprogramming her fat cells into insulin-producing pancreatic cells. First, the cells were turned into stem cells, which can transform into nearly any type of tissue. Then they were guided to become insulin-making islet cells and implanted into her abdomen. Amazingly, just 75 days after the procedure, she no longer needed insulin injections, and her blood sugar levels have remained stable for almost a year. Scientists have discovered that ethnic Tibetan women living at extreme altitudes are passing on traits that help them thrive in low oxygen environments. At high altitudes, oxygen levels are much lower, which can lead to serious health issues, especially during pregnancy. But some women have developed specific adaptations, like more efficient hemoglobin and increased blood flow, allowing them to stay healthier and have more children. Researchers have also found that 80% of these women carry a gene variant called EPAS1, which prevents blood from thickening. This gene and the trait it supports are becoming more common with each generation. It's evolution taking place in real time, and it might even help us understand oxygen-related illnesses like asthma. Forget the girl diets, the ovulation calendars, or the best positions advice. None of that matters. 2024 was the year we finally discovered that some people carry a rare genetic variant that actually increases their chances of having a daughter. Yep, it's always been hidden in your DNA. The study found that people with the gene variant RS144724107, what a great name, have a 60% chance of having a baby girl instead of the usual 50-50 odds. And it's tied to a gene family involved in sperm production and fertilization. So while we've all heard of the old wives' tale about how to guarantee a girl, it looks like science was the real decider. It's just another reminder that life will find a way, no matter how many bananas or pineapples you eat. Scientists have created artificial plants that not only clean the air, but also generate electricity. Developed at Binghamton University, the innovative plants use biological solar cells and photosynthetic bacteria to mimic natural processes like photosynthesis and respiration. The prototype, featuring 5 leaves, uses artificial light to power these processes, hinting at a future where these kinds of plants might even be able to charge our electronic devices. Between December 2023 and March 2024, the Hubble Space Telescope took pictures of Jupiter's Great Red Spot and uncovered something amazing. The iconic storm is wobbling in size and fluctuating in brightness. The unexpected behavior has left scientists searching for answers. They believe the storm's oscillations are pushing against Jupiter's jet streams, distorting its shape in what researchers describe as a sandwich effect. While the current data suggests the Great Red Spot may eventually stabilize into a smaller, more compact form, for now it just underscores how much we still have to learn about our solar system's largest planet. Okay, now I know most of us rarely gave breakdancing any thought until ray guns moves at the last Olympics, but it turns out these performers risk much more than just their egos. Doctors at Copenhagen University Hospital recently treated a breakdancer for a rare condition they're calling the Breakdance bulge. Years of head spinning caused a benign cone-shaped tumor to form on his scalp due to constant friction and pressure. Practicing up to 7 minutes of head spinning 5 times a week for nearly 2 decades, the dancer ignored the growing lump until it became too painful to bear. Doctors successfully removed the tumor, allowing him to ditch the hat he'd been wearing to hide it. This one definitely belongs in the "we've crossed into the uncanny valley" files. Researchers at ETH Zurich modified an AI to outsmart Google's reCAPTCHA v2, the very system meant to keep bots out. And it wasn't even that hard. They simply tweaked the YOLO image processing model and trained the AI to recognize reCAPTCHA's usual suspects. Even when it failed the first try, Google's multiple attempts rule ensured it eventually passed. Impressive? Absolutely. But also a major headache for online security. With CAPTCHAs now beatable, researchers will have to find new defenses to outwit their own creations. Researchers at REM Space pulled off something that feels like pure sci-fi. 2 people in separate homes had a conversation while dreaming. Yeah, actual communication in the middle of REM sleep. Both participants entered lucid dreams, where you're dreaming, and used a specially developed dream language called Remio. One person received a word through earbuds while dreaming, repeated it in their dream, and somehow passed it along to the other dreamer. The second participant confirmed the message after waking up. REM Space says they're already working on real-time dream chats. So, which of these facts stunned you? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out all our social medias, including my personal ones, links in that description. And you know what? There is so much strangeness in science that you can't fit it all in one video, which is why there's another one about weird and random science facts right here. Just click on the link, and I guarantee that your mind will be turned inside out. Not literally. That would be horrific, but I will see you soon for another list. Click. It's real simple. You know those mice I was talking about earlier? Use that. Click.